Hi, I'm Sarah Caper from the Champaign County Farm Bureau Foundation, Ag in the Classroom, and one of our biggest events is usually in the spring when we check out incubator units. And a lot of times I have lots of questions about how to get started and how to clean up and so on. So we've got a quick video tutorial for you in 4 parts. One is setup and monitoring, one is how to candle, the other one is the actual hatch and how to prepare for that, and the last one is cleaning up your equipment for return. So we're going to get started with setting up. When you have a drop off or you come and pick up your kit, you're going to get a clear tote like this. It's marked with both of our, we have a sticker on the top and a sticker on the side to show that that belongs to Champaign County Farm Bureau Foundation. Get inside with your tote. And this would be on a Monday before you set your eggs on a Tuesday. You will want to get your incubator out and running and get its temperature regulated and also monitor its humidity. So you're going to get a box that looks something like this. This is our new unit. It is a domed unit and it's so wonderful for kids to be able to view and easy for you to set up. So when you take it out of the box, you're going to notice that the cord is separate. And then the unit comes out in 2 pieces. One is the dome, easy viewable dome, and then the base. Okay. Now you can return the box to the tote, but eventually you'll use that tote for the brooder. So you can set this somewhere out of the way, but this is how it will all return to us. So let's talk about the incubator. The base has a grate in it that sits over the water well. This is to prevent chicks from falling into the water, which would obviously be devastating. It also holds the turner in place. And this just threads back on the top. If I can just get it, there we go. We have a turner, a yellow turner in place that will slowly turn the eggs several times a day. And then the dome sits easily on top like that. And that is for easy viewing. Now, to plug this all in, you've got the outlet cord that will go into your wall. We have an extension cord for right now. And this will go to the top of the unit. This is your power supply. And it does make a loud noise to let you know that you have, there we go, that's better. You have turned it on, and this is your egg turner. And that will go into a separate unit. They are both marked, or separate hole, and they are both marked. Immediately you'll notice that the temperature and the humidity starts to read on the top, and it will tell you that it is heating. Now, humidity and temperature, that's always a big question. Easy to find anywhere you look for resources. We also have a card that looks like this, a little schedule and info sheet that we'll have inside of your bucket. That has this information, but you want to keep it at 99.5 degrees. And really, the machines are set to do this, and you shouldn't have to worry about that at all. It's the humidity that gets tricky. So one of the first things you'll do after you get it up and running and heating is you're going to add some clean tap water to this little reservoir on the outside. And what it does is drains into that middle part that had the grate over it, where I said the chicks could fall in, so it has that protective grate. And you're going to fill this, not all the way, but there are 2 standards here, 2 markers down in the well, and you want to fill it to the top there. And then you can let it sit. Now you're going to monitor that the whole 21 days just to make sure that your humidity stays where it should. For the first 18 days, you want the humidity at 45 to 55%. And here's how you'll monitor that. There's a vent on the back, and right now I have it completely open. To start, you want it to be about half open. And then monitor and just see as it heats up and as it balances out, see if you can keep it at 45 to 55%. If you cannot, you can always close it to about 1/3. Okay? You never want it completely closed, and you won't open it completely until hatch time. Humidity is very important for development, and it's going to depend on your classroom, where it's located, if you've got it near drafts. So don't compare yours to somebody else's on your team. because if you're an upstairs classroom and you're comparing it to somebody who has one downstairs, you're going to be completely different because your temperatures are different in the building. Windows, no windows, same thing. So keep a watch on that. That's usually pretty easy. Okay, you're ready to set the eggs. This is day 2 really in your whole project, but it's only day 1 of incubation. So what you want to do on a Tuesday, hopefully, is when you're doing this. And the reason we do that is so that they hatch on a Tuesday, not over the weekend for you. So when you get your eggs, that Tuesday, you're going to want to set them. You're going to check your temperature and your humidity, but remember, every time you open this dome, things will drop and adjust. So we want to make sure that when you put the lid back on, give it some time to come back to temperature, because you're putting room temperature eggs into a 99.5 degree incubator. So when you have all your eggs, you're going to load them all as quickly as possible, but as carefully as possible. And you're going to place them in between each grid marking in the incubator so that it can turn them. You're going to place them points in like this, and then close it up as soon as you get all 12 eggs ready. Now, once those are set, then you're going to reset your countdown days so that, this is kind of cool, you're going to make sure it'll count down for you from 21 to 1 day. So you'll hold the minus and the menu, you'll hear a beep, and then you can let it go. Now, every time you hit menu, you'll see day 21. So you can do that each day. If the kids will remind you what day it is, but in case you want to know, that's how that will happen. Then it will switch back, and right now mine is at a good humidity level, but it needs to come back up to temperature. So you're gonna load all those. Now, if you want something really exciting for kids to participate in, it's candling eggs, and that is actually, I always call it like an ultrasound, where you can take a look inside of the egg and watch the development, and this is really exciting for them. So on day 1 through day 6, you're gonna see a lot of space and something floating, maybe some blood vessels. So I like to wait till the end of the first week, and maybe even into the second week. You could do it twice and pick a couple of eggs and gently lift the lid, quickly take the egg out. You're going to turn all the lights off in the classroom, which will make it very exciting, and set the egg on the light that's on the lid. And then all you have to do is hit this minus button, and a bright light will shine, and you put the egg on top. And of course, this is not a real egg, but a real egg will show light through the shell, and you'll be able to either see something floating. You might see an eye, you might see a wing. You'll see a lot of fluid and blood vessels if it's a viable egg. If it's not, you're going to see air or just a clear spot all the way through. You'll definitely see an air sac in all of them as well. And if it has nothing in it, you don't see blood vessels, then you know it's not a viable egg, there's nothing growing, and that's time to have a conversation with the kids that sometimes you have some that are growing and sometimes you just don't. It's your choice what you want to do with it at that point. You can throw it away, or you can leave it in there to be with the other ones, but eventually it'll get thrown away. So that's hatching. Maybe into week 1 and week 2. By the time you get to week 3, that egg is going to be full of chick, and it'll just look like blackness as you try to look into it. So have fun with that. Okay, so we're to the exciting part now. We're getting ready for hatch. And if you set your eggs on a Tuesday, this is a big step that you want to take on Friday, so that if you walk in on Monday morning, you are all set to welcome the chicks. It's not likely that they will have hatched over the weekend, but every once in a while there's an early morning Monday hatch, and you want to make sure that you're ready. So if you can have some peace of mind over the weekend doing this part on Friday, that's the best way to do it. Toward the end of incubation, so at about day 18, you want to make sure that you are prepared with a high humidity setting for your chicks that allows them a little bit of wetness so the shell doesn't stick to them. So what you're going to do is you're going to make some changes for the incubator. First, you're going to add more water into that reservoir that you've just kind of kept barely full this whole time. And you're going to make sure that that water is now above those 2 measuring standards that you've been following. So add enough that it's nice and full. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to take this vent that you may have been kind of messing with to keep it at 45 to 55, and this time you're going to open it all the way. You want your humidity at about 65 to 75%. Okay, so make sure you're monitoring that, and it should stay that way through the duration until the end. So here's another step that you're going to do to prepare for those chicks hatching. You're going to remove the lid very quickly. And most of the time the eggs are small enough and you can lift this grate out without moving them, but my example egg is a little bit bigger. So I want you to take the grate off of the center, remove the turner. It will automatically stop because the incubator tells it to stop at day 3, but we're gonna remove it just in case because we don't want it rotating as the chicks are hatching. Place your eggs in points toward the middle and replace that lid and let it come back up to temperature. Now, you are really ready for a hatch when you come back next week, and you can kind of leave it like that for the weekend and feel good about it. Getting your brooder ready is something else you want to do on a Friday so that you are ready for those chicks. What you'll do is, we've included several things in here. We've got about 5 days of food. So if they hatch on Tuesday, and they don't have big appetites on that first Tuesday, but you have enough chick starter to get you through until Friday or the weekend when you take them to the farm. And that food will be added to the container that has the holes on it. So you can fill the bottle up with this food and it will drain down into those holes, okay? You'll add water to this one and it will filter out as well. So they have water and food when they arrive. And then you'll clear everything out because this is now your brooder. It's a home for your chicks for those few days, and it allows for the kids to view them from all sides, which is kind of nice. You'll want to fill the bottom with, we have cedar chips they absorb the smell and they're nice for the chicks, but you can use shredded paper, newspaper, whatever you'd like on the bottom. Cover the bottom of your tote, place your water and your food on one end, and then you want to make sure that they have a heat source because most of the time we're hatching during the cold weather months and we want to make sure they are warm, especially right after they hatch. So you're going to clip either the lamp to the side of the tub, or a table above is always best. It's a little more sturdy. Plug it in and let that lamp filter into the brooder. And I'm actually going to suggest that you put it on the opposite end of the food because you don't want to heat up their water and food. And that you'll want to watch. If you have a thermometer, you can drop in there to make sure it doesn't get too hot for them. They will tell you if it's too hot. If those chicks are running to the other end of the brooder, that means they can't stand the heat. You need to raise it up a little bit. If they are all huddled constantly together, then you know it's probably too chilly and you may want to lower it a little bit. So kind of take their cues on the temperature of the brooder. As they get older, it's not as important, but you want to keep them at a good warm temperature for their happiness. When you come in on Monday, it's quite likely that you might find a little yellow chick or two inside waiting for you. Who knows? They have their own timeline sometimes, along with all of the other eggs. If that happens, take a look at that chick, and if it's nice and dry and fluffy, that means it's probably ready to come out. If it's still wet, as if it just came out of the egg, give it some time to dry out. It's just like when you get out of the shower, it's cold when you're wet. You want to dry off. So give them a little bit of opportunity to dry off. And then you can quickly lift the lid and you can gather up any of the chicks that are dry. And I like it if there's one or two or three together, and transfer them to your brooder and introduce them to their food and water, and they should be fine after that. And then just continually do that throughout the day. As they hatch, give them time to dry. They don't have to be completely dry, but mostly dry, and move them over. And that'll be probably a full day's project for you, is just moving. And you probably won't get much teaching done that day either because kids are going to be excited. So that's your day of hatching. All right, so the last step after you've had all of that excitement with the hatch is the cleanup. Not so much fun, and usually if you're hatching in the spring, you're close to the end of the school year, and I know it's one more thing, but it helps us out tremendously if you do a good job of cleaning up your unit and returning it as you found it in the tote. So let's go through this. When you're finished with the hatch and all the chicks are now in the brooder, you can do this ahead of time because you'll keep them in the brooder for a few days before they go to a farm. So you can start it on the incubator anytime. So disconnect that those two plugs, the one that goes to the temperature monitor and to the power source in the turner, and remove the lid. Remove any eggs that haven't hatched. And I suggest, I love this idea of putting everything that's goopy, dirty, gross in a Ziploc bag. Then you can zip it shut and throw it in your trash. Nobody has to smell it and your janitor doesn't have to touch anything. So clean up all those shells. If you're grossed out by that, put on some rubber gloves and do that. And then drain the water. Please drain the water so we don't have a wet box. And do that by just kind of pouring whatever is left out into your sink or a bowl or something. And then take some paper towel, and obviously mine isn't super messy because we're just simulating a hatch, but take a paper towel and clean up everything that you possibly can on that base, first of all. And then use your Clorox wipes that most of you have in your classrooms and disinfect that for us. That would be great. Take the lid and do the same. Wipe it out with paper towel. That's usually not as dirty, or the parts that you see aren't as dirty, and then Clorox wipe. What happens oftentimes is you'll get a lot of yellow feathers up here. We will take care of that. We've got a can of air that we spray and we clean all that motorized stuff out. Please do not soak either part of the unit in water or run water in it. Obviously this is a motor and some moving parts on here as well. So just wipe them out as best as you can. And then return all of the parts as you found it. Put your turner back in there because the next person will use that. And then put that little grate over the well back on, the lid back on, and you're good to go, and return it to the box. When it comes to the brooder, after the chicks are finished, unplug your lamp and take the waterer and the feeder out and wash those. Put them in your sink with some soap and water. They do stink really bad. If they come back to us like that, then the whole tote is a mess and it stinks for us. And then take some Clorox wipes and paper towel and clean out the tote, because we want to be able to pass this on to someone else. Sometimes it's a back-to-back use, and it's nice if it's ready to go for the next person. And then put everything back in as you found it. This will fit back in the box nicely, and then we'll talk about getting that back to us. We'll make arrangements with you whether you want to drop it off or possibly have us pick it up, depending on what works.